Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. As I just said, the best part of the evening is about to get started. You are at the 2024 NDTV Infrashakti Awards, and I thought it would be interesting to have a conversation with Amit Singh, the CEO of Adani Green Energy, on a couple of key points that he was talking about. Sustainable green energy transition, some of the key technologies involved. This is an area where India is a world leader. And the roadmap ahead is something that we all need to look ahead at in discussing India's infra growth, our infra potential going up to 2047. Amit Singh, if you can join me for this conversation. Come. Thank you. Great. Mr. Singh, thank you so much for speaking to us. When it comes to India's green energy transition, it is at one level profoundly technology-based. And I was just fascinated by one point that you mentioned when you were speaking earlier today, when you spoke about windmill technology in India and the abundance of the potential that exists. Could you tell us, A, about the potential and B, about the evolving technology?
Sure. I think maybe let me take a step back and maybe give you a bit of a sense of how renewable power works, right? We have a lot of good resources of solar radiation. We have wind, which typically blows. And if you look at the hours when the wind blows at a higher velocity, it is usually in the morning and evenings. And we benefit from good wind in the coastal areas of the country, onshore and offshore also in south of India and west of India. We have a good wind potential which we can harness. So what it does, when you combine wind with solar, you are able to complement each other and give a firm kind of a power for most of the day and evenings where you have peak demand. And when you look at solving the power demand for night time, there is a requirement for storage, large volume storage, large scale storage solutions. And if you look at the technologies and opportunities we have in the country, what comes to mind is the pump storage as the big scale solution which our country needs to work on. And we have quite a few places in India where we have this opportunity of geographical opportunity where we have a head of 500 or 600 meters where you can store water in one of the reservoirs and then recycle it in the evening. So you can produce power late night and supply, the solar power and put the water in the top reservoir. So this is the context we are trying to solve for. Now, the key technologies, if you look at this solution, which are required for green energy, I think the very first one is solar panels. Solar panels today, if you look at how they are made, and from molecular level to getting to solar panels, we need to look at polysilicon, we need to look at lots of components which go into it. And that entire supply chain and the evolution of supply chain needs to be established in the country. When it comes to wind, I think the wind, a lot of these technologies are very classical in nature, like the turbine has been in many, many years. But how can we make it more efficient? How can we look at the blade design and the aerodynamics around it to make it more efficient so we can reduce the cost of generation?
Sure. Another key aspect in this is energy storage itself.
Yeah.
It seems to me that, for the last several years, we've hit a real roadblock in terms of battery technology. Yes, efficiencies have improved. We've seen lithium-ion batteries and the potential over there. But A, it's very expensive. B, the size of batteries increases dramatically as you want storage capacity to actually go up. Do you see this as being a fundamental challenge to which we haven't yet got a real breakthrough? And if we are looking at future technologies to work through this problem, what would those technologies be?
Yeah, look, I think batteries are evolving very fast. If your understanding of battery was 6 months old, then it's too old. If you look at the price of lithium chemistry batteries, they have reduced quite significantly. And that's also being witnessed in many of the auctions and tenders which are happening in India. So one thing is very clear, that batteries are becoming economically feasible now for large-scale storage solutions. But again, they are not as competitive as pump storage. So when it comes to the context of our own country, I think we will prioritize pump storage as a way towards solving for large-scale storage solutions. But talking of batteries itself, we need to look at the chemistry, look at the supply chain, the mining of lithium, if we are talking about LFP battery systems. But there are other battery systems as well which could potentially evolve, whether it is nickel hydride, zinc, or sodium-ion batteries. And each of these require different tweaks and configuration and technology innovation to bring the overall cost down. But we need to look at supply chain really from molecular level. Otherwise, we'll miss a trick as we transition into green future.
I had a very basic question. The Adani Group has dozens of square kilometers of solar fields, and that's just set to expand. Many of these are in arid and semi-arid areas, where the buildup of dust and sand reduces efficiencies dramatically. How exactly do you deal with dust and sand?
No, good question. And I think a conventional way of solving for cleaning solar panel has been using water. And using water and manual cleaning processes, which used to be done in 15 days' time or 30 days based on different cycles. But we have chosen to be more sustainable, and we have adopted automatic technologies. So we have a robotic cleaning system, and these are automated machines which are self-charging. So they charge during the day, and they operate during the night, where they go and walk over the entire solar panel array and clean it up, ready for production in the morning.
And square kilometers, dozens of square kilometers are cleaned by robots. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely. We have a plant which is covering 5 times the area of Paris. You can't imagine humans or any kind of way of doing that in an arid area where water is also not available in abundance. So the sustainable way is to use these dry brushes, which are mounted on robots, and they clean the entire solar panel. So we get very high efficiency, and we're very happy and satisfied with the results we have.
How are you able to track and monitor the efficiencies of individual solar panels? There would be lakhs of them. Are you able to, for example, observe them real time? And how do you ensure that they're all working efficiently? Because you have certain goals in terms of the season, obviously, but you're feeding a certain grid. You can't be too high or too low. So the efficiency of each panel or sets of panels is critical. How do you maintain that?
Look, you're absolutely right. I think we make a forecast on how much production can come from each of these panels, but it's not possible for any manual intervention. So what we have done is we've invested in digitalizing each of these solar arrays, where we've installed different IoT sensors, which are installed on each of these solar panels. And we're aggregating all of that data in real time. And using AI and machine learning, we're able to see the usual pattern of production, which happens on a daily basis, and then detect any anomalies against any historical benchmarks and patterns, which allows us to kind of be very precise in how we look for maintenance, so that a maintenance engineer in the evening can go and exactly go to the pinpointed problem and solve for that. So we are able to kind of optimize our resource allocation in such a way that using these digital technologies, we are able to kind of become very, very efficient. And I think now we're going to even get better with digital twin and ability to model these at large scale, where we can detect more engineering problems, which were previously diagnosed through multiple levels of laboratory tests. But using AI and data patterns, we are able to now detect them without those fancy laboratory tests also.
Yeah. And the larger picture over here, and this is one of my final questions, is that as we keep expanding our solar potential and as we keep expanding our wind potential, and these are just 2 areas, you deal with many other areas as well, how are we working towards realizing India's environmental goals and moving towards less emission and ultimately no emissions?
No, look, I think solar and wind are going to be the most cost economical ways of fueling energy demand for our country. And doing at scale further reduces the cost and makes it more viable for any kind of industrial application. And as we look ahead of us, as the digital age is looming ahead of us, I mean, if you look at AI computing, which is going to grow at a large scale, it's going to be fueled by power, and it has to be green power. If you look at large-scale applications outside in manufacturing, that requires a lot of power and energy, and it has to be fueled by green power, which will be, I would say, locally produced, because, as you know, in India, we don't have oil and gas resources, and we've been importing a lot of fossil fuels from outside. So this is also going to reduce our reliance on outside, countries and make us more energy independent. And it will absolutely transform our economy.
Yeah. One of the areas that must be a concern for you, because whenever we talk about infrastructure and India's infrastructure potential, there is the entire issue of securing it, physically and otherwise. When you use the word AI, what struck me is that there are those with interests which aren't ours. Therefore, protecting the integrity of our systems, protecting against hacks, because these are factors which exist across the world now. Is that a huge concern for you?
No, absolutely. I think, as we become more digital, I think cybersecurity is absolutely in the top 3 risks which we manage, and making sure that we have a very substantial protection against any malfeasance or any rogue attack. We have multiple layers of security, and we very frequently test it and make sure that it is absolutely secure. And we design it from the ground up using the best science and technology, and very proud of the team which we have working on this, and they have made sure that it's one of the best in the world. Also, physical security also is an issue. So we are using, because these are very large land parcels, and you can't have humans driving around.
Exactly.
So we have autonomous drones which fly around, detecting any human movement
Sure.
in the border areas, and then they broadcast those video signals back to the command center. So then again, we can be very precise in intervention.
Fascinating speaking to you, Amit Singh. The potential of India, when it comes to certain technologies that you're looking at in meeting our infrastructure goals, our energy requirements, absolutely profound. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much indeed. Thanks.